We have the community call that's available to help particularly elderly people who may be in difficulty in getting their shopping. That all happened in the first phase of COVID, and it will happen in this phase as well. So the capacity does exist to get both essential and what might be termed non-essential goods and services across the board.
The British Prime Minister is expected to announce a new national lockdown for England later. Boris Johnson has called a news conference at 4 o'clock. According to leaked proposals, everywhere except essential shops, schools and creches could be closed for a month from next week. Finally, James Bond star Sean Connery has died aged 90. The Scottish actor was the first actor to play the legendary role. He appeared in seven 007 films and won an Oscar for his role in The Untouchables. It's 2:02.
News Talk Weather.
Thanks to the AA. Download the new AA app to request a roadside rescue and track the patrol right to your car.
Very windy with strong to gale force winds, especially in Atlantic coastal counties. Very high seas will lead to a risk of some coastal flooding too. Highest temperatures today of 8 to 12 degrees. And now we're up to date on News Talk.
Off the ball. This is News Talk.
You are welcome back to Off the Ball Saturday here on News Talk. John Duggan with you through as always until 5 o'clock. One of the benefits of having a championship in GA over 2 months is the amount of quality games that are coming thick and fast, almost like the World Cup. So right now in the Ulster Football Championship, it's Monaghan 1-11, Cavan 1-4 in Clonus. So looking good for Monaghan. Conor McManus with a goal just before half-time. And Cavan, if they lose, they're out of the championship. Remember, knockout for football, you get a second chance in hurling, and hurling is the focus today at 7 o'clock. Just a football match, Waterford playing Limerick in the quarterfinals of the Munster Senior Championship. But what about the great game of Imonicht? 3 brilliant matches to look forward to today. The Leinster semi-finals at Croke Park, Kilkenny playing Dublin at 3:45, Galway meeting Wexford at 6:15, and at 3:30 Cork and Waterford to throw in a Munster semi-final in Thurles. Tomorrow then it's All-Ireland champions Tipperary meeting the league champions Limerick in the other Munster semi-final at Páirc Uí Chaoimh. To look ahead and to give us updates throughout the afternoon, we got Waterford's Noel Connors. But first, Kilkenny legend Tommy Walsh is at Croke Park.
Hello, John, and welcome to Croke Park. For lifting and striking and doubling like lightning, for points and goal scoring, his praises we'll sing. He's hurling's most glorious, he's always victorious. He's Cork's darling hurler, the bowl Christy ring. In great hurling matches against Tip and Kilkenny, against Galway and Dublin, against Wexford and Clare, against Waterford, Limerick and all other counties, our hero was foremost, he never showed fear. 8 medals he now has a record unbroken. Of hurlers he now is surely the king. So now all together, one last rousing 8 All-Ireland medals, John. 18 Railway Cups, 4 National Hurling Leagues, 9 Munster Championships, 14 Senior County Championships with the Glen, 1 Junior Championship with Clyne, All-Irelands. Just some of his many achievements. He played with Cork until he was 42 years of age, and the Glen until he was 47. Jack Lynch, former President of Ireland, said that his excellence in the game he loved would never be surpassed by anyone in any sphere of sport. John Tipperary, and the winner of 8 All-Ireland medals himself, said Christy had no equal and there will never be another like him. But my favourite of them all, the former GA President Pat Fanning from Waterford, said Ring enriched the game of hurling more than any man knew over 40 years. He lived and breathed the very spirit of hurling. If Christy Ring was alive today, John, he would have been 100 years of age this weekend. And I just important, like everybody below in Cork and all over Ireland this weekend, are the great man from Clyne.
Well, Tommy Walsh, that is absolutely breathtaking, and you brighten up my day, and I think so many others throughout the country that were delighted to have hurling back. And I suppose as a Kilkenny man, you were reared on tales of great Kilkenny players, but also Christy Ring.
Yeah, John, and I suppose I grew up, you know, from Kilkenny, sure, hurling heartland, and I kind of followed hurling. So there's a guy from Wexford. He wrote a book that time. I would have been around 9-10 years of age, I'd imagine. It was called Giants of the Ash. And you had probably maybe 20 or 30 hurlers. You know, you had probably the Loan's father. You had Cork lads, Jack Lynch, Christy Ring, you had Mick Mackey, you had from where you had the Rackards, you have Eddie from Kilkenny, you know, John Keane of Waterford. There were so many from all over the country, you know, and I ate them books. I loved them. But like one man kind of, just from hearing the stories and his love of the game and what, like he thought of nothing else and put all, like after Mass of a Sunday, before Mass, after work, before work, he was trying to make himself better at hurling, and I loved it. So any bit of information I could get at the time, I ate it up really, and like his memory, his spirit, everything still lives on. Now imagine 100 years later, and he still is regarded by many. And for, you know, I haven't seen him play bar a few clips. You're just hearing stories, but the crowds he brought, and maybe wasn't at his funeral, just what he brought to the game, and Fanning, his, you know, and I was looking at what people said about him. What Pat Fanning said about him was just absolutely.
Yeah, sorry, Tommy, just the line is breaking up there a little bit. Noel Connors, I'm sure you were aware on Waterford 48 and 59, but Christy Ring as well has been in every hurling fan's mind, given everything that was said about him, and Tommy brilliantly articulating that there today.
Yeah, absolutely. I suppose it's very hard for me to try and follow Tommy Welsh in any shape or form. But
none of us can, no.
After that introduction, it was going to be very hard for me to try and add any value. But yeah, look, I suppose he was one of the first people that, you know, as a kid growing up, you know, you'd always kind of look at players in the past and kind of you try to emulate yourself off them, and everybody would have heard of Christy Ring, and you know, I suppose Tommy is trying to promote himself now as the next Christy Ring in Kilkenny, so we'll try and give him a bit of light for that.
The Daisha, 3:30 against Cork. Liam Cahill's got a great record at underage level with Tip. He's come in, he's made a lot of changes. No Páirc Mahoney, obviously that's a blow, but is there quite confidence that you can get back to where you were, say, 3 years ago? No.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, they were hurling quite well pre-lockdown. They were, you know, hurling quite well in the league. You know, I know they took a beating or two, but they had a couple of send-offs against Tipperary, but they're hurling very, very well. Despite the fact there's a number of changes, there's also a lot of experience there. And even now, having a look at some of the positions where you have like Jake Dillon at number 9, you have Kevin at 10, and you have Austin at 11, it seems that he's trying something different, which is good to see, you know. And I suppose Kevin is probably putting half-forward line off the back of Páirc doing his ACL, so looking for someone to win ball in the half-forward line.
Was there a lot of hurt in Waterford, because that run to 17 was great? You lost to the final quite narrowly to Galway, but in the last few years it's been very tough.
Yeah, I suppose it's been a complete change in the sense that, you know, when you're competing, you know, for All-Ireland semi-finals and quarter-finals and then obviously finals over a 10-year period, and then to, you know, go into a completely different championship and a completely different structure, and then you're losing the majority of your games out of all your games. So obviously it's a complete, you know, different emotion. But you know what, it's a perfect opportunity for the lads to go out this afternoon and try and right that. Waterford and Cork are always ding-dong battles, and the one thing about Waterford and Cork, they don't fear one another. So despite the conditions, I think it'll be a pretty interesting shootout.
Desi Hutchinson used to play for Brighton. Now he's playing a championship match for the first time at senior level for Waterford. He played very well in the club.
He did, and you know what? It's interesting. For the last 2 years, he's been hurling incredibly well with Ballygunner, possibly Ballygunner's best player. If you want to be perfectly honest now, Ballygunner playing in a way in which they use Desi quite a lot. But in fairness to him, he's always stood up to the plate. With that, I suppose there's probably a small bit of pressure on him in the sense that there's huge expectations on Desi the last 2 years to perform for Waterford, and now is an opportunity. But in fairness to him, he has a lot of experience. As you said, he was with Brighton for about 3 years, and I think his contract was up. So he would have, you know, got a flavour for professional sport, and he would have trained quite a lot for, you know, a number of years in that. So he certainly would have taken a lot of benefits out of it, and he's definitely bringing it forward to the field. So I think Waterford people, by and large, are looking forward to seeing what he's like come Championship hurling.
Cork, as we know, are a pacey team. Kieran Kingston's back, was possibly their most successful manager of the last while. He came back in this year. They were unlucky maybe to lose to Limerick a couple of years ago in 18 in that semi-final. They don't have Darragh Fitzgibbon. That's a big blow. What are we expecting from the Rebels? Not only today, but possibly for the season, because it's now 15 years since they won an All-Ireland.
I don't think anyone from Cork will be happy with that particular statement. But no, look, you know what? I was just looking over their team sheet when they announced it last night, and when you look at their 6 forwards, it hasn't really changed too much over the last couple of years, which is hugely important for them. Now, I know there's probably an over-reliance on Hoggy the last few years to score, but even with their half-forward line of Harnedy, Lahan and Aidan Walsh, they're big physical men that are there to kind of do a job. I reckon that Austin will probably follow Harnedy and try and put the clamps on him. And I think that'll be an interesting battle because Harnedy is always very influential out around the middle. Obviously inside you have Alan Cadigan, who always causes a bit of bother for Waterford just because his lightning pace, and he's also very good on the turn. So it'll be interesting to see who picks him up. I reckon, from looking at it from the outside, I reckon Conor Prunty will probably go and take, I'd imagine, someone like Horgan. You'll have Kingston, which generally floats out around, will say to the 45, so I'm adding Shane Fives, and that leaves Shane McNulty to take up Cadigan in the corner. So it'll be an interesting kind of battle and see how they fare.
How are you sizing it up, Cork and Waterford, Noel?
You know what? There's so many different dynamics, and obviously everyone talks about the conditions now and how they've changed. It's genuinely a 50-50 match. If you look at even the matchups in midfield, you have Bill Cooper and Tim O'Mahony. Tim O'Mahony is probably more renowned for being in the half-back line. You have Austin now, which is put in half-back to try and put a bit of shape on it. You have Callum Lyons, who's probably a newcomer the last 2 years, but probably one of Waterford's best hurlers now at the minute. I think, and I'm going with my heart rather than my head here, I think Waterford will probably win it by 2.
Wow. Okay, Waterford to win the match today.
Do you know what's concerning there, John? As you said, well, which obviously means that's not the case. You don't think so?
No. I think. I mean, Cork people are going to hate me for saying this, but Cork, when I was growing up, always found a way to just come out of Munster and win All Irelands, and they had that confidence that I think has deserted them a little bit in recent years in big matches at Croke Park, and I think Kieran Kingston's the man possibly to, they were very unlucky in 13 at Jimmy Barry Murphy against Clare in the final. Clare, that very late equaliser. But Cork have lost that swagger a little bit for me, that they always turn up and win All Irelands. This is the longest run, I think, since 54 to 66 with Cork and winning All Irelands, because that's what Cork are expected to do, to win the All Ireland. And it's even to me, I think it's a 50-50 battle as well today. I'm not so sure if it's a 50-50 battle between Kilkenny and Dublin. That's a 3:45 throw in at Croke Park. The one thing I think is interesting about, they've spoken for years about Kilkenny and Cody in these behind closed doors matches and having the same intensity as a championship game. Surely that will stand Kilkenny in good stead behind closed doors now.
Yeah, and you know what I think is even more interesting is the fact that Kilkenny's bench is just phenomenal. If you look at Paul Murphy, Joey Holden, Richie Lahey, Richie Hogan, Jerry Aylward, Liam Blanchfield, all who have a lot of experience at this level and at championship level, which is invaluable, particularly going forward for the next number of weeks. Given the fact that's going to be run off in a very short period of time, you're going to need a lot of experience. I do think Kilkenny will win, and I think that Kilkenny will probably win by maybe 4, if not 6 points. I think their strength is definitely their half-forward line, half-back line, and definitely in around midfield. I think that if you look at Buckley and Conor Fogarty midfield, they're in there to do a job, and in fairness to them, no better men to step up to the plate. Where I actually think it'll be a really interesting battle will be Colin Fennelly and Owen O'Donnell. Owen O'Donnell is probably one of the most natural full backs, along with Dahi Burke from Galway. I think he's been incredible the last 2-3 years. Last year he picked up a hamstring injury, if I can remember correctly, against Limerick in the league semi-final, and he kind of struggled to come back from that. But I think that that's going to be a very, very interesting battle. Both are probably 6'2", 6'3", very athletic and good hurlers.
And Donald Burke last week for Dublin scored 116, finished the game very strongly. The Dubs, obviously, a lot of fitness there. It was an impressive win because they turned around last year's defeat. If they're going to hurt or upset Kilkenny, how are they going to do it today?
The one thing about Dublin is they like room, they like space to run into, and they like kind of shooting, will say, I wouldn't kind of say a football type of skill. They like someone coming off the shoulder and running from deep. So what they're going to require is plenty of space inside for the lads that you just mentioned in the full forward line, but they need runners come from deep. They like the Danny Sutcliffe, Chris Crumby, who is now named as centre forward, where, to be perfectly honest, I think Chris Crumby is possibly better off in centre back because he dictates that of the game. But they're going to require a lot from the likes of Sean Moore in midfield, along with Ryan McBride. I think that if they can get their 2 midfielders to try and get on top of the Kenny lads, that's probably their platform to work forward from.
And the Ballyhale lads are back as well. That's obviously great for Kilkenny. Adrian Mullen is still, he's been recovering from injury, so he's not in the team today. But you got the Ballyhale Shamrocks boys, TJ Reid, Colin Fennelly, Richie Reid, Owen Cody back. Owen Cody's been flying as well recently.
Absolutely, and you know what? It's interesting because you see two Ballyhale lads in the full forward line, and obviously they've played together for quite a long period of time. But it'll be interesting to see how they perform together on the big stage. Personally, I'd like to see someone like Colin in full forward and Richie Hogan's kind of sniping out around, kind of playing that corner forward role where they go out a small bit deep and then they kind of float in. So someone that kind of plays on the edge of the D. And then playing off someone like Richie or off someone like Colin, because they would have played together the whole way up through Kilkenny and they'd have a good partnership. But also I think what's very, very important for Kilkenny is I personally think that Owen Murphy has been the best keeper for the last maybe 5-6 years, and I think that he dictates a lot of the play for Kilkenny, and he's going to have a huge impact on the game despite we never really talk about keepers. I think that his influence on the game is going to be so important, slowing things down, speeding things up when required. But I suppose you can't really look past TJ as well to have a huge impact on the game.
Can Kilkenny win the All-Ireland?
To be honest, I read some of Tommy's pieces in the papers last couple of weeks, and he was saying that it's going to be Kilkenny, Limerick, and Tipperary. And to be perfectly honest, I think he's correct in one of the three. I certainly wouldn't write Kilkenny off. Everybody wrote Kilkenny off last year in the semi-final against Limerick. And they were phenomenal. I think that the win of the game was their half forward line. They had John Donnelly, they had TJ, and they had Walter, and everyone is well aware of what Limerick do, as in their half forward line go back the field, try to pick up the ball, and then play it into Gillan or someone inside. However, they couldn't get past the physicality what Kilkenny brought on the day. They couldn't break down the three Kilkenny lads in the half forward line, and that's where they kind of struggled a bit. But I certainly think Kilkenny can rattle a couple of cages, and I would not write them off for the All-Ireland final.
And Tommy is also doing his articles as well for otbsports.com, so you can check out Tommy's thoughts throughout the championship on our website and on our new app. Just let you know, in the football half-time, Monaghan 1-11, Cavan 1-4, 1-5 now. The second half just begun, so 6-point lead for Monaghan, 1-11, Cavan 1-5. Conor McManus with the goal for the Farney just before half-time. The Joe McDonagh Cup round 2, Westmeath 10 points, Kerry 1-6 at Cusack Park. It's half-time there. Carlow play Antrim at Netwatch Cullen Park at 3. In Camogie Ladies Football, the All-Ireland Camogie Championship, Cork 2 points, Wexford 2 points at Páirc Uí Chaoimh. That match started at 2. And the Ladies Intermediate Football Championship Group 1, it's Wexford 3-9, Offaly 7 points in Clane. In the Group 2 of the Intermediate Football Championship, Longford 2-5, Westmeath 9-8. And in the Junior Football Championship, it's Fermanagh 1-1, Wicklow 9 points. The other match then, Galway against Wexford, 6:15. It's gas that David Fitzgerald has picked exactly the same team, though, that lined out against Tipperary 12 months ago in this very different world now.
Yeah, it's funny because I was actually just writing some notes looking from the team, and that's the first thing I have down. It's actually no surprise, which is strange for Davy, because Davy generally is similar to Cody in many ways, in the sense that they'll kind of spring someone from the unknown and try and put a curveball into the opposition early on. But no surprises. The one thing I kind of looked through their team, and they're at the peak of their powers, if I'm being perfectly honest. Davy is there now. This is their third season together with Davy. And if you look at the lads from Wexford, the likes of D. O'Keefe, Lee Chin is 28 now, Matt Hanlon is 29, Conor McDonald is 25, Paul Morris is 30, Liam McGovern is 29, and Mark Fanning is 29. So, they're a well-oiled machine at this stage. They have plenty of experience, and also the fact that Davy has been there 3 years. So they know what to expect, and he knows what to expect from the players. So I think that if anybody outside of the three that I mentioned earlier on are going to rattle any team in the championship this year, it'll be Wexford.
Is Davy really geared towards what the situation we're in now, where everybody's in a very difficult situation, a lot of COVID testing, he's a motivator, he gets the best, he gets 300% out of everybody. Is he the right man actually right now for Wexford in that regard?
100%. Davy is incredibly strategic. He knows exactly what he wants, and he's always thinking, which is what you want from your manager. He's a forward thinker, and he's someone that always motivates, as you said, the players, and that's the key, particularly in these conditions when things might necessarily be going in your own way. Wet, sloppy conditions, which I imagine a lot of matches will be, considered the rain last night, and certainly somewhat wind out there now at the minute. But for Davy, Davy is just he's been a revelation for Wexford Hurling. Wexford were probably on their way down a small bit for maybe 2 or 3 years in advance of that. But they've been completely revived. A lot of kind of new lads coming in the back room. But then you have the likes of your D. O'Keefes and all these lads that I just mentioned that are really coming into their prime. And it's, do you know what? It's now is the opportunity for the last season, because we don't know what's going to happen next year in terms of championship. So I think they're all well aware that they're all smart, educated lads, and so they all want to kind of put their shoulder to the wheel and kind of drive on. Another element of this, which I think is quite interesting, is the fact that if you look at Wexford Hurling Championship, Shelboneers won, I think it was on the 23rd of August, which was quite early for any senior club championship to be finished. Whereas if you look at the likes of Kilkenny lads, I think that they finished theirs, the 27th of September, which is more than a month later. And that'll certainly play into Wexford's favour as well in the next couple of weeks.
Speaking to Noel Connors here on hurling, you've got a question for Noel and for Tommy Walsh, who will be bringing back shortly. 53106. It was a great matches today. Galway, Wexford. Joe Canning being fit and back for Galway. Great to see for any neutral. And we can't underplay how important that is.
Yeah, but I suppose the other note I had down here, we can't actually all rely on Joe. There's a natural instinct in Galway, and outside of Galway, I think it's probably an Irish thing to expect Joe to come on and score maybe 2-10 and him to ride into the sunset with another victory for Galway. Do you know what? There's a big year for the likes of Conor Whelan, who's now like 24. I think he's actually 24 today from when I was doing my research earlier on. So happy birthday to him. Happy Halloween, 24 years old, but he's put full forward by Shane O'Neill, which is obviously a message of intent that he wants him to drive on the full forward line. I think most people now that look at inter-county games.
You marked Conor Whelan in the 2017 final, if I remember.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, we had a great battle on the day.
You kept him scoreless, is that right?
To be honest, you know what? People always say this thing. You know what? Did anyone score? I can't actually remember. I can't remember. I'm not going to try and lie. I don't know. Yeah, maybe he scored a point or two. I'll give him a point or two. You know what? It's interesting because the reason I say that is because generally, if you look at, we'll say Wexford and what they're going to bring, I'd imagine they'll play with what they normally do is they put like maybe one inside or maybe two inside, and what they'll probably do is try and bring the likes of Aidan Hart out, who's the most seasoned player in the full back line. The two other lads wouldn't have as much experience, so they'll have someone like Conor McDonald probably stay in full forward line, try and pull out the other two lads and get ball in high and try and get on the break from there. So it'll be interesting to see how that develops.
One thing I felt from watching Clare Limerick last week was the lack of intensity, because hurling is very much connected to the crowd and the ebb and flow of the game and the noise of the supporters. Wexford are a county that really thrives with their fans when they're in full voice, and they're so passionate, the Wexford supporters. Is that a disadvantage to Wexford, or is everybody just in the same boat here?
I think everyone is in the same boat, but I completely understand what you're saying, and to be honest, I perfectly agree with what you're saying, because Wexford always bring a fantastic crowd, as do the likes of Limerick and Tipperary, etc. Now, that's not to say that the rest of the supporters aren't as good, but I'm just saying that they're probably in the minority. They're probably comparable to somewhere like a Celtic, a Liverpool type soccer crowd. But no, I think that you're right. I think that that'll definitely have some bit of an impact, but I don't think it'll have too much. I was watching a match last week, and that spark, even when Clare got the goal, I was kind of saying, lovely, this is an opportunity for Clare to kick on, and all of a sudden then nothing happened, and maybe it was a result of the crowd, but for anyone that has played, I suppose a goal is worth so much more psychologically than 3 points on the board. It's probably worth 4 or 5 if you're being perfectly honest with it, because your tails are up, you then get a bang of energy and you want to drive on, but that just didn't seem to be there. So it'll be interesting to see in the next 2 days what kind of an impact it will have.
How are you calling Galway Wexford then?
I do think Wexford will win, and I think that's off the fact that you've no Dahi Burke in full back and you've no David Burke playing at all. I know he's on the bench.
You've got Fintan Burke in now, yeah.
Yeah, but I think that Dahi was probably the best full back the last 5 years throughout the country. No Dahi full back. I think that's going to be a huge void to fill. And David midfield was the engine of the team for many years. So I think Wexford will win. I think Wexford could actually win by 3 or 4. To be honest, I think that they're at this stage, as I said earlier on, they're a well-oiled machine. They know exactly what they need to do and how to do it.
Tomorrow we got Limerick and Tip. Does the fact that Limerick have had a game a week ago give them a big advantage or not?
I don't personally think so. It's strange in the sense that, and this is no disrespect to Clare, the last kind of 5 minutes or so was pretty much trying to shut down shop and just try and finish it out. But I don't think it's going to have any impact, to be perfectly honest. I think that tomorrow's game will be incredibly interesting. It'll be interesting to see, will Brendan do what he done last year and follow Galan, or will they put Cathal Barrett on him? It'll be interesting to see how they try and adapt to the half-forward line of Tom Morrissey, Garrett Hegarty and Kyle Hayes, and what they're going to do there. Because if you look at Tipperary's half back line. I think it's Brendan as centre back and the Ronan and Paddy are on the wings, which is a phenomenal half back line. But will they actually stay there, and will they kind of try and follow lads at the field, or will they hold their positions and let, we'll say, their own half forward line come back at the field? So that'll be very interesting. I think that you'll have someone, Noel McGrath will have a huge influence on the game, I think. He's very similar to Cian Lynch. I think that you'll have Alan Flynn will probably follow Cian, which will be a big test for Alan. He was phenomenal in the county championship this year for Tip. But I think that what happens in around the middle third, that's probably discussed quite a lot. I think whatever happens in there will have a huge impact on the overall performance of the team that wins.
Tony Kelly, in a way, had Limerick in his pocket at times last week. Is that a worry against a team that is 1 to 15 stronger than Clare are in Tip?
It's you know what, it's so hard to know. Like, Tony is one of those fellas that I think that Brian Lohan said that he's one in a generation, and you know what, he's hit the nail on the head with him. Like, Tony is a phenomenal player, and he's very much, you know, he doesn't really get involved too much in kind of the rucks, but he knows who's going to get it and he knows where to run. So before you know it, he's actually gone over your shoulder and he's popped inside with a pass and the ball is over the bar and he's running back out the field. But in fairness, Tipperary have loads of those lads as well. The likes of Noel McGrath, John McGrath, all of those players are just, you know, top class. So I think it's going to be a really interesting ding-dong battle. And the interesting thing as well to this is the fact that nobody has really been talking about Tip over the last couple of weeks. They've been talking about Limerick and talking about the likes of Wexford, etc.
It's Monaghan 1-12, Cavan 1-7 after 48 minutes. How are you calling Limerick and Tip now?
I feel like I should say Tipperary because Siobhan downstairs will probably kill me if I don't say Tip, but I think Limerick will probably sneak it by a point or two. But to be honest, I don't think that's going to be the end result. It genuinely doesn't surprise me if Tip win by a point, but I still think that Limerick would win the All-Ireland if they got bet tomorrow.
And we got Tommy Welsh back in the line at Croke Park ahead of Kilkenny and Dublin. Tommy, I was saying there to Noel Connors that Brian Cody, the famous training sessions behind closed doors were so intense. Does that give Kilkenny an advantage in the championship, do you think?
Well, it would. When you're talking about there's no matches to build up really to this championship. Usually you have a tough league campaign, you can blood players. If you don't have a strong panel, a strong team, it's very difficult to create that, I suppose, that atmosphere, that incredible toughness and mental toughness in training that you have to be going for the full hour because you're trying to prepare to get on the team. If you're not going well in training, you mightn't be on the team. So if you have a big panel with the I suppose the value Brian Cody puts on his training sessions, you know if you play well that you will get your chance. It has to bear fruit with him. We see from the team the name and the subs, as Noel said earlier on, they've great subs. It's probably the strongest panel I've seen for Kilkenny in a good number of years. Like if Gerard Elwer to come on, Richie Hogan to come on, Liam Blanchfield, Young Tommy, Joey Holt and Paul Murphy. Like there's a serious bench there. But like say if John, if you're starting guys maybe that you have question marks about, then it's not such a strong panel. But the guys he's gone with have been playing brilliant at a club level and underage with Kilkenny. You have Owen Cody, who has just won his second Club All-Ireland with Ballyhale. He has performed on the big stage. He's going very well by all accounts in challenge matches and that. You have Billy Ryan from Greg Ballycallan in the other corner, a real speed merchant. So the likes of playing in a small pitch, mightn't be as beneficial to Billy as Croke Park. So the likes of Croke Park now, with the intensity, as you said, that he would have gone through in training, he wouldn't have been thrown around the last couple of weeks. So yeah, I think it'll do no harm anyway.
Dublin beat Laois by 16 last week. Tommy, good win for them. But do you think Kilkenny will have their measure today?
I would put Kilkenny favourites, absolutely. I think they will win. But the one thing that I will be going for Dublin is their form. Like Crummy has gone up centre forward, an unusual call, I thought, but he'll be coming up against Paddy Deegan today. Two kind of big, powerful men. Fitness is huge with both of them, and really winning the ball and power through the tackle will be a strength of both of them. That will be a fascinating battle, I think, today. Crummy is an inspirational type character, I always felt, with Dublin. Some players, they just have that aura about them that when they win a ball or come tearing out with a ball or maybe score, let off a pass, they kind of rouse the crowd more than any other player, and Crummy is that player. And if he starts well for Dublin, he has the keen ball and Danny Sutcliffe beside him on either wing, and two players again who are in great form. Form, I think, and momentum will play a major part in this championship because you're playing week after week. You have a good game last week and you're confident. If the game is not for 3 weeks, well then, John, you have to kind of bring yourself back down to ground and build yourself back up again. So as I find, when the game is week to week, go in with that confidence, especially a young team like Dublin, who are trying to, make the breakthrough get to an All-Ireland or breakthrough in Leinster with three other strong teams left in it. So I think that will be a major advantage to Dublin, that they came through a huge, tough, physical battle in the championship with that. The stress and the tension that goes with that all week, the build-up. So they had that before the Laois match, came through a tough game and only kind of really, the tore on in the last probably 15, 20 minutes. So, yeah, I think that's the advantage Dublin have today, but I would have Kilkenny as favourites.
Noel is going for Wexford against Galway later on. Tommy, Davy Fitzgerald picking the same team that started against Tip last year in the semi-final. Joe Canning back for Galway, but no Daithí Burke. How are you seeing it going?
Yeah, so the Wexford and Galway game it's an unusual one, and we know nothing really about both teams other than what we've seen in the past number of years. So we haven't seen anything bar the couple of league games which you could really not go on at this stage back in the earlier parts of the year. So you're going by last year, and you're going by really the players. You're trying to use your own gut instinct, your own eyes when you're trying to compare how the teams are going to get on against each other. The Tyrone Camogie Club run a competition, a fundraiser, trying to raise funds, and you're predicting match. I went for Wexford in this game. Why? I just looking at their players, I think they're all, John, coming to the peak of their careers. I didn't realise Liam Ryan would be back. I thought he was going to be out injured, but he's named a full-back, a terrific full-back, an all-powerful full-back who can as easily solo the length of the field and give a hand pass for a score. Especially the way the Wexford play, John. They kind of, everybody comes back, but they don't just stay back. They could power forward from anywhere, like the Donegal, Jimmy McGuinness Donegal team a number of years back. So I think the Wexford team, what they have going from is their players. They all love Davy, so they're coming in on really on a high. They got Davy back. They thought they were after losing. They had a great year last year. Could have got over the line against Tipperary. Disappointed not to, so they'll have that grit between their teeth. You have Lee Chin, really in I suppose the power of his career is right now. His physical strength, his hurling ability. He's a fantastic man in the air, and he'll come up against the brick wall himself, Garrod McInerney. So that'll be a fascinating battle. Why am I not going for Galway? And I like these Galway guys because I think they're big men. They're great in the air. I just think that they're kind of going in much the same team again, and a lot of their guys, the Joe Cannings, Joseph Cooney, they've been around a long time and they're still their main players. So I just don't know what form they're in. So that's why I will go with Wexford in that game.
Cork and Waterford, 3:30. We'll have Valerie Wheeler down in Thurles to give us updates on that one. Tommy, Noel is going for the Daisha. How could he not? How are you seeing it?
Yeah, again, in that prediction fundraiser, I went for Waterford. Why Austin Gleeson is back in he's the shape of his life by all accounts, back in my favourite position for him, which is either centre back or on the wing. Just give him a job to do and let him attack the ball going forward. If the ball doesn't come near him, no pressure. If he was up centre forward, where is Austin Gleeson when he's not in the game for 15, 20 minutes? Where is Austin that he's not in the game? Suddenly he grows impatient, goes looking for the ball and kind of really goes out of the game. So he's wing back, he gets a job to do. As Noel said, they might put him on somebody, on one of the Tipperary main forwards, the Bubbles the Wire or the John McGrath. They might just get him to man mark somebody on the wing, which I think is a great thing to do because he is their main man. He's awesome. He had that powerful year a couple of years ago, but some of the things he can do with the ball, not everybody can do. They have been dealt a blow, I know, with Páirc Uí Chaoimh, but they have Desi Hutchinson. Again, a brilliant soccer player, has speed. In Thurles, you can't beat speed. There's wide open spaces there. He gets the ball, he tears through, there's a goal on. Has scored, how many times has he scored 4 or 5 points from play for that great Ballygunner team? So for that game, I'm going to go with Waterford. Liam Cahill is in this first year. I think they will come with a huge work ethic. But it depends on the Cork team really, John, as regards they can score from anywhere. Okay. For them to have a chance, they'll have to defend well. Well,
about a minute left on the item. Tommy here. Tip and Limerick, to me, are the best two teams in the country. Meeting again tomorrow. Limerick whipped them in the Munster final last year. Then Tipperary went on to win the All-Ireland. What's your verdict on that one?
They did, and Tipperary beat them when
in the round robin,
in the round robin, John. Yeah, when I thought at the time I was at a good few of them matches at the time, and I thought Limerick were unbeatable really, and Tipperary turned them over. And I know then they beat them well in the Munster final, but I will go for Limerick. Again, they have that championship game under their belt. They won it convincingly. They have been going well in challenge matches. They're probably really, they've that grit between their teeth over last year. They got caught in the All-Ireland semi-final by a powerful Kilkenny performance and really felt, that last year they were trying to do the double. I think Limerick will win, but I won't be surprised. It's a 50-50 one. There's no doubt about it. You couldn't call it. How could you back against a Tipperary team that's All-Ireland champions? There's no pressure on them with the 2 in a row because of the whole talk about the pandemic and the structure of the championship this year. They've Shamie Callan, John McGrath, Bubbles the Wire. They've all them under-20s, under-21s coming through. That's a 50-50 one, but I will go, because I haven't seen, I don't know what form Callan is in. I don't know what form Bubbles is in. Páirc Uí Chaoimh. Now, one thing I would ask people to look out for, and I look out for myself, John, is Páirc Uí Chaoimh versus Garrod Hegarty. I think that's going to be a powerful battle.
Absolutely, Bubbles not in the team for tomorrow's game. Got to leave it there. Tommy, speak to you throughout the afternoon for updates on Kilkenny, Dublin. Thanks as well for Noel Connors' insights from Waterford as well. Also speaking to Valerie Wheeler down in Semple Stadium for Cork's match with Waterford, getting updates from her. So you're covered for hurling and you're also covered for football between 3 and 5. Manchester City have beaten Sheffield United 1-0 in the Premier League. Kyle Walker with the winner. Now here in OTB, the big names keep on coming as part of our Cadbury FC series of remote roadshows. So far, we've had in-depth chats with Gary Neville, Teddy Sheringham, Packy Bonner, Shay Given, Sol Campbell and Ian Wright. And coming up early next week, we're speaking to Glenn Hoddle and Harry Redknapp. So stay tuned to OTB Sports social channels for full details on where to catch it, and head over to otbsports.com to check out our previous remote roadshows. It's all with thanks to Cadbury FC. Check out cadburyfc.com for updates on promotions and giveaways. Back after this.
Off the Ball on News Talk.
On Monday's Hard Shoulder, as Americans prepare to vote either for or against 4 more years of Donald Trump, I'll be speaking to one of his most trusted advisors. Until he wasn't.
This was the largest audience to ever witness an inauguration, period. These attempts to lessen the enthusiasm of the inauguration are shameful and wrong.
Yes, that's right. Sean Spicer joins us in his only Irish interview before Election Day. Monday from 4 on the Hard Shoulder.
With Nissan.
On News Talk.
Some sing about it. Some dance about it. Some even sing and dance. At TG O'Mahony's, we don't have to make a song and dance about it. We just take the hassle out of your everyday build, regardless of how big or small your project is. TG O'Mahony's, your builder's merchant and DIY store. Check out tgomahony.ie.
Afternoons are easy with insuremyvan.ie, Ireland's low-cost van insurance specialist. Get your business back on the road with Insure My Van's best price guarantee. For super savings, visit insuremyvan.ie. City Financial Marketing Group Limited, trading as insuremyvan.ie, is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
At Harvey Norman, our stores are open for home appliances and essential technology, with great savings on big brands and interest-free finance available, like the Neff fully integrated dishwasher with info light that shows when the machine is running. Now just €469, saving €50. Or the Bosch fully integrated dishwasher with dosage assist to ensure optimal cleaning results. Now only $399, saving €40. Shop online today or in our spacious stores that are all open until 6 p.m. daily. Harvey Norman.